Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So usually, I clean my videos up by, starting and stopping them and editing them. But this one, I'm just going to go off the cuff and answer this question above. He says, would you talk about your time from there on and the toll on your mental health without family and isolation, not knowing anyone, so on and so forth. He's speaking about the video that I just did about when I became a Muslim in prison and losing my inheritance and my family, and basically none of my family talked to me for 15 years. And still to this day, they don't talk to me. They talk, but there's nothing behind it. It's just kind of empty, if anybody knows what I mean. So when I became a Muslim and I found out that my inheritance was gone and so on and so forth, like I said, alhamdulillah, I had found Islam, so it didn't really bother me at all. A lot of the people were commenting down below in my video, oh, mashallah, but you're guided. That's exactly my point. If I had to do it over again, I would do the same thing, right? It doesn't bother me at all. I've always grown up with money, so I experienced money growing up, so it didn't really bother me to lose it, right? As long as I was guided to Islam. So what people don't know is when I became a Muslim, I still had 2 years to go on my sentence. So I had to still be alone in prison. At least people would come and see me. They would put money on my books because, I worked in the laundry room and I worked in the cafeteria for 8 hours a day for $1.10 a day. Yes, $1.10 a day. I'm in prison. I have no complaints. It's not supposed to be like a resort, right? It's supposed to be prison. It's supposed to be harsh, and I agree with that. So as far as mental health, like I haven't thought about these things in so long. I think the major thing was that I didn't understand. It was more confusion. Like, you prefer the person that I was before, living a life of sin, doing all kinds of substances, having, 3-4 girlfriends at a time, going out to the club, having no moral compass. You prefer that than me to get a moral compass and live my life for God. That I never really understood. I think that they were just so in the dark as far as any other religion. Still to this day, my father believes that I worship a moon god. What do I say to people like that? Like, what do I say? There's nothing to say. So getting out of prison, I don't know if it was harder to be in prison or be out of prison, because when I was in prison, I was around my brothers. I was around people that were on the deen with no distractions. That's kind of weird to say, but that's what it was. I felt like when I experienced being out for 1 year in freedom, being around Muslims, and being in prison around Muslims, it's weird to say this, but it's true. The Muslims in prison are more on the deen and they have better manners than people outside of the prison. They're more serious about their deen in prison. And when they're outside of prison, they're just like, whatever. When I got out of prison, I had to acclimate as a white American Muslim, which is very strange to people, both Muslim and non-Muslim. When I was in prison, I was the only white Muslim. There was no other white Muslim. It was just me, right? And being a Muslim in prison, I got a lot of flack from, the AB, the Aryan Brotherhood, different set of rules in prison. And I actually had to fight for my Islam. I went to the hole 3 times for fighting. And I actually lost all of my good time because I had fought so many times to stand up for who I was as a Muslim, right? I didn't take anything from anybody. And so I fought for that. Being outside of prison, I had to acclimate as a white Muslim to find my identity inside of Islam. You know, people, whenever I would go to the masjid, not the first time that I went to the masjid was very enjoyable. I met a Egyptian sheikh by the name of Sharakawi, I believe. And he was with a African-American Muslim named Hamza. And they welcomed me very, very openly. But I would find out that wherever else I would go into another masjid, people will look at me like, is this guy the FBI? Is he the police or something? And so there's a lot of distrust that I had to go through with that. If I go into an African-American mosque or that is predominantly African-American, it was just like, okay, who's this guy? But ironically enough, I was in the African-American community more than any community because they were the ones that trusted me the most. You know, it was just like a week or two and I was family. You know, it was like, hey man, come on over. You know, we got a barbecue going and hey, that's Ali. You know, I mean, he's a Muslim, you know, he came out of the penitentiary. And so acclimating outside of prison was rough. It was hard to get a job because of my criminal past. I'm talking about when I was fresh out of the penitentiary, which was 29 years ago. 29 years ago that I got out. And not having a family was rough, especially around the holidays for some reason, you know. We always used to get together. We used to go to my grandmother's house or my mother's house, and my grandparents and whole family would come over, or, you know, we would all get together, and that just didn't happen anymore. I was told that, you know, I had freaked out on the Islamic religions. So I got married to an African-American woman and had children with her. And I was told that, you know, I give my kids Muslim names. You know, Abdul Rashid is my oldest, and Usama and Khattab and Salahuddin and Ahlam and so on and so forth. And I was told by my grandmother that I'm welcome in her house, but not that black wife of yours. And I just thought, and I said, don't you want to meet her? Don't you want to meet your great grandchildren? And she said that I don't feel like they're related to me because they don't have white names. And I just told my grandmother, if my wife is not welcome, then I don't feel welcome and I'm not coming either. You either accept all of us or none of us. And so unfortunately, my grandparents passed away with that, without ever seeing me again. My then wife and my kids didn't even lay eyes on them, imagine. So, you know, reverts go through some challenges, some that are way worse than mine. But, you know, you just acclimate. You get used to it. You get used to the nonsense that you see in the Muslim communities. You get used to the, you know, people looking at your resume and Ali, that's, where are you from? You know, where's your father from? Where's your mother from? Okay, I'm actually Norwegian, American. I'm Norwegian and Irish, but you're white though. I thought you got one of them Arab names. And so in short, you know, there's a lot of things that that a revert needs to get used to. And actually, 32 years later, it hasn't stopped. There's still some challenges inside that I face with Muslims and non-Muslims. But alhamdulillah, it's all worth it. So hopefully this answers your question. If you want more, just comment below. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.